You ever bring home a cheap plug-and-play NAS, only to find it stalls on a family photo backup or chokes when you try to stream a 4K movie from your living room? I've seen that disappointment happen more often than it should, and it makes the whole idea of a home server feel risky. That hesitation is why I spent a good chunk of the weekend actually wiring up the DiscTech DS225 Plus with its two 8TB enterprise drives, moving a few terabytes of personal media, and testing how it behaves under a real household workload. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, this isn't a budget box you throw on a shelf and forget about. The DS225 Plus comes with 2 GB of DDR4 RAM and a 2.5 GB Ethernet port, which means it's built to handle multiple users at once without turning into a bottleneck. In my house, that translates to 3 different scenarios happening simultaneously: my partner streaming a 1080p Netflix show from the NAS to the smart TV, my teenage son pulling his school project files from a laptop, and my own desktop running a quick Photoshop batch that reads raw images stored on the server. The system stayed responsive, none of the apps froze, and the transfer speeds felt noticeably quicker than the 1 GB routers I've used in the past. The real question with any NAS is whether the hardware actually solves a problem you have, rather than just adding a shiny new gadget to the shelf. If you're a casual user who only needs a single external hard drive to toss a few movies onto, a cheap USB-C enclosure will do the job and cost a fraction of what the DS225 Plus asks for. But if you have a growing library of photos, videos, and documents that you want to access from any device, maybe even remotely while you're on a weekend trip, then the value starts to shift. The two 8TB drives give you 16 terabytes of raw capacity, and the unit supports RAID 1 mirroring out of the box. That means you get a safety net. If one drive fails, your data stays intact on the other. For me, that peace of mind was worth the extra dollars because I keep years of family footage that would be heartbreaking to lose. One of the hidden trade-offs I discovered was the learning curve around the file management interface. DiscTech bundles its own web dashboard, which is clean and fairly intuitive once you get used to the layout, but it isn't as polished as the big brand Synology DSM. You'll spend a few minutes figuring out where the shared folder settings live and how to enable SMB versus AFP protocols for different devices. That's not a deal-breaker for anyone comfortable navigating a router admin page, but if you expect a plug-and-play experience with zero configuration, you might feel a little friction at first. The upside is you get granular control over user permissions, which is handy if you want to give your kids read-only access to a movies folder while keeping your work files locked down. Performance-wise, the 2.5 GB port really shines when you're pulling large files across the network. I ran a quick copy of a 20 GB video archive from the NAS to a Windows PC over a Cat6 cable, and the transfer averaged around 230 MB/s, well above the 125 MB per second ceiling you hit on a standard gigabit link. That speed difference becomes noticeable if you edit video directly from the NAS or if you regularly back up multiple laptops at once. However, the unit only has a single 2.5 GB port, so if your router or switch is still on 1 GB, you won't see those gains without upgrading your networking gear. It's a modest extra cost, but something to keep in mind if you're budgeting. Another practical strength is the compact design. The DS225 Plus is about the size of a small desktop tower and fits nicely on a bookshelf or under a TV stand. The front panel has just a power button and a status LED, which keeps the look clean. The 2 drive bays are tool-free, so swapping out a failed disk or upgrading capacity is straightforward. You don't need a screwdriver or a special enclosure. That simplicity aligns well with the set-it-and-forget-it mindset many home users have. On the flip side, the DS225 Plus doesn't come with built-in hot swap capabilities. You have to power down the unit before you replace a drive, which is a step you'll want to plan for if you're aiming for true 24/7 uptime. Also, while the unit supports basic backup apps, it lacks some of the more advanced replication or cloud sync features you find on premium models. If you need automated off-site backup to services like Amazon S3 or Google Drive, you'll have to set that up manually or use third-party scripts. For a household that already backs up to an external drive or uses a separate cloud service, this isn't a huge obstacle, but it does limit the all-in-one appeal. So, who should consider the DiscTech DS225 Plus? If you have at least a few terabytes of data you want to keep safe, need reliable